instantly. And look at Wayward's face! He can't wait to play the Scorpion.
It's a flex between jungle and top lane. We'll keep that just on the table. Typically, we've been seeing it in top lane. The champion builds full tank and does 1,000,000 damage anyway. You love to see it, whilst also being a highly mobile, engaged champion too. Isn't that fun? We have seen that Twisted Fate does well into tanks of all sorts, though. That would be an easy lock-in for the side of RNG if they wanted to kind of secure that top lane matchup. They're going towards the Varus instead. Now, this is actually quite an important point because we've seen some big changes to kind of on-hit Varus is kind of dead now. It feels like the first strike poke Varus is now the way to go.
Yeah, it's the fact that the poke Varus is going first strike now. So obviously, ranged use of Hail of Blades was nerfed a little bit. So first strike seems to be the go-to over Comet as well. But the fact that you just get 15 gold every time you proc the first strike, regardless how much damage you did, it's really easy to proc that Varus in lane. You just blast that hail of arrows and boom, 15 gold in your pocket. It feels pretty nice.
There were so many combos there. And when it's Heng on the side of WE, you have to pay attention to a couple of them because he plays an awful lot of weird stuff. A couple of those AP farming junglers were hovered over. Instead, it's going to be that Maokai, and it's going to be the Tristana. So it is going to be that AP jungle, AD mid laner, but more of the traditional kind that the LPL has built around for many years at this point. FoFo's Tristana, pretty powerful in that regard. It's very hard to beat the push now with the Nymeara off the table too. So in terms of mid lane picks, Tangyuan needs to find something that can at least survive lane and get some value in another way. You're not really beating that Tristana in terms of push.
No, and I feel like FoFo, a very solid Tristana as well, very good alongside that Maokai too. So FoFo being set up well here. Tangyuan going for the Jace, which is something, you know, we've seen a little bit over the last year or two. I would love to get back into a Jace meta. It feels like a long while since we had a proper Jace meta. We'll see if that is going to be in the mid lane. It could go up top as well. I don't know if you want to take that into a Skarner, though, to be honest.
Well, the thing is, Jace is really good until someone finds a great way to all-in you. And the thing about Skarner is, you know, he presses his little charge button and he's all into you, and then that becomes a bit of an issue. If you can isolate the lane, I think it's fine in the same way that you've seen Twisted Fate be good into the Skarner as well, and kind of deal those tanks in at least decent fashion. But the Jace in general has been a really big LPL staple pick for the last few years. I actually think one of the reasons why LPL maybe struggled a bit at MSI compared to last year's MSI was the fact that we were really good at Jace last year, this time around then. Having it come back into meta, that was a good thing for the region in general. I think what's going to round out these drafts, the AP junglers to combo up with that Jace now on the tape.
Aggressive bot laners banned by RNG, AP junglers banned by WE. Although I will say, Brand and Karthus both can technically be played in the bottom lane and have obnoxious win rates on 410. Obviously, slight nerf to the Brand bot lane, but there we go. Diana comes on through. AP bot lane, AP junglers, sorry. That's what we're talking about.
So, Diana has been creeping back in drips and drabs. We saw, what, one game of it from BLG at MSI, if I remember correctly. Can't remember the last time it's played before. That Milky Way played again, but it's spring. I remember that one. But it's been few and far between. But as we said, AD junglers are back on the menu, which means that AP junglers are unlocked. That's often what gate-kept AP junglers from the meta. Jason, Tristana, LPL specials, and Lucia Darby, also an LPL special. You can have all the fearless draft you want. That fish and the gunslinger will be there all the same.
Honestly, I'm okay with this, though. Like, WE, they've got a brand new bottom lane, LP and Mark coming in here. Like, having them have a really solid, stable, aggressive duo where you can influence the game, I am fully on board. Let's see what LP and Mark can bring to the table there. But our first game of Jace of this split, our first game of Diana of this split, we'll see how that's going to work out for RNG. So they need to finish this composition out. We'll find out if that Jace is going to the mid lane. Maybe they take it to a Skarner. I'm saying probably mid.
I'm saying it's probably going towards mid lane. Wouldn't surprise me if we got ourselves something that can... I was wondering if the Twisted Fate would be put towards top side as well, just to have something that answered the Skarner. Instead, it's be tank for tank matchup. Cassante and Zizi. He was very much a Cassante connoisseur, like many other LPL top players. What this means... Drafts fully locked in on both sides, very organized, back-to-front team fights for both of these squads. Big engage options in multiple different roles, which means that we're likely looking at objectives, big 5v5s, and seeing who gets ahead of those first team fights of the game.
Yeah, it does feel like quite a snowbally game on either side, doesn't it? A lot of poke with the Jace and the Varus, a lot of potential all-in with that Nautilus and Diana as well. But then similarly, like, the speed at which WE will take towers, the both engage and disengage available with the Nami and the Maokai together. Then Lucian and Tristana, such good follow-up onto a single target. Does feel like it could be quite volatile. A single pick really could break this game open.
And the reason for that, in terms of the single pick breaking it up, is because the amount of follow-up is really quick. Tristana jumping over a wall,
Yeah.
Lucian, Nami, very good at following up from long range too. Once you get their ultimates, on the other side, you have a Varus, a Jace. They hit you like an orbital laser at that point. So, if you're out of position, could be one kill into a huge fight after that point. I'm very interested to see now which one of these teams can kind of get ahead with similar style compositions. We said this is a benchmark series. Both these teams had a lot of changes coming in from spring. Good compositions on paper to show. Where does that benchmark lay purely on gameplay?
I have to wait and see. I'm a little bit nervous with the state of first strike on this patch. Having a Lethality Chase and a Lethality Varus on one team. If a Q hits from both at the same time, you might just one-shot someone. Honestly, we'll have to wait and see. Orbital Laser will definitely be the key to keep in mind with this RNG composition. Let's find out as we head into game number 1 between these two teams. RNG and WE, some roster changes on both sides. Let's see which new bot lane can show up today.
You know, I was waiting to see when we were going to end that show. We have now. Gave us a little bit of a wait, they're all the same. See how the crowd's feeling.
Well, this is awkward.
Yeah! Sometimes you're sat there and you're like, wow, crowd's going to start screaming, going to quickly get into the game, wonderful. Just a 5-second delay. And here we go, there we go, fine, cool. Guess that's it, day 2. Timing's still going to work on that one.
Look, yeah, day 2, okay, guys, it's day 2. Look, give us a minute to warm into it. Yeah, just a tiny bit awkward there, but that's okay, you know. Fresh split, fresh faces on the Rift, and we'll see which team can show up here on day number 2. It feels like both teams, honestly, pretty solid drafts on either side. I'm a little disappointed to see Cassante versus Skarner in the top side, but that's okay, because it's Fearless Draft. If we get to game number 3, I'm assuming they're just going to switch for game number 2, but game number 3, we'll get exciting stuff.
I like that you leave out the obvious. Well, if it goes to game 2, they'll just pick the opposite of this matchup. However, little too not quite reach for these bot lanes. Probably whether we get ourselves a bit heavier of an all-in. Like was dropped just there from Ming. Not going to be the case just yet though, and we are going to see a little bit more action from the lanes without really help out from the junglers. These aren't necessarily going to be junglers that interact with these lanes too heavily. It's not a Xin Sao, Lee Sin. Both these junglers want to be farming up, so it's all on the lanes themselves to do their own stunts.
It certainly will be. See what stunts they can pull off. Looking across this early game, though, you can see both junglers pathing towards that bottom lane, so potential for shenanigans there. Worth mentioning as well, no lane swaps. That is a blessing, I would say. After MSI, we did have a little bit of lane swapping yesterday. Not too much, but, you know, first couple of levels perhaps avoided. This matchup, though, I feel like both bot lanes are quite happy to take the 2v2 in theory. Like, this very much does feel like who plays better as opposed to just one team outright winning it out. So I think it makes sense for both teams to be headed towards that bottom lane. We'll see if the junglers do try and get involved in this lane. We'll say I'm quite impressed that Heng is clearing faster than a Diana.
First clear, Marco's okay at this one. It's really when it comes down to second and third clear that things get really out of whack when the Diana starts to really just put on the afterburners. Diana is one of the fastest clearing champions in the game as you speed up a little bit into it. If you can play for jungle advantage sometimes here too. We'll see whether Wei can get ahead in regards to that. Of course, he is a player which has done an awful lot of hard carrying for RNG on carry champions in the past. Not going to be contesting this bot lane scuttle as Lucian Nami's got the push down there early enough, but it will be scuttle for scuttle trade, and it's been pretty quiet. There isn't really much, again, as we say, that these junglers can do very early into this game. You're waiting a little bit until that happens.
Yeah, he certainly are. Will be just resets on the bottom side. LP and Mark obviously having prio there. Does mean that Heng gets that bottom crab, gets to finish it a little bit faster and gets to go back to base. And Wei actually can go grab his chickens again. They've respawned at this point, or they're about to respawn at this point off the back of the crab. Got a ward onto the enemy Gromp. They just continues with the clear.
This has been a little bit of Farmville early on. FoFo does have the early push in mid lane and will take some hard enough trades. Tangyuan, he has a teleport, he uses the last of his HP to buy himself a free reset. He'd like to collect this wave if he can to get himself a tier and then towards his first laning items as well. And should be safe to do so.
I will say there, Lethality Varus and the Lethality Jace both having to get the tier early does actually kind of slow down your laning a little bit while these can become aggressive picks. You do have that slight lull in the first few levels where you got to go for the tier.
It's funny you mention that because yesterday, and shout out to Molecule on Twitter, who I picked this up from as well, was noting the fact that one of the games yesterday from PokeRose actually just skipped tier altogether. It's something that's been happening in solo queue a bit, where you're fighting all the time, so you just choose to drop out that tier and just get all the lethality items early to stop stuff like this happening. You're just getting pushed in, you can't fight back quite on the timing points that you'd like. RNG say, nope, we're happy with that, we'll just soak up farm, we'll go for the double tier trough and come back into the mid game.
One thing I want to mention as well on the topic of these lethality champions is we've got no first strike. We've got a Halo Blades for Huanfeng, and we've got a phase rush for Tangyuan in the mid lane as well. So I was kind of expecting double first strike here from RNG. Neither of the laners opting for that rune in the end. But so far, actually, one thing I just want to quickly mention, hey, we've got gold differences on the LPL overlay now.
Yeah!
We take that as an absolute win.
I think we saw that crop up during MSI course that was in China as well, so I think we've kept that one over, which is nice.
We have the technology.
Yes. Reminds me of the gosh, it's the was that Robocop? Was that we have the technology? Is that it?
I
we've got ourselves a
absolutely
as well.
no idea, but neither does ZDZ. He's pulled underneath the tower, and nothing happens. Ah, tanks to the top lane. You love it.
So anyway, Robocop, or wherever that was from, anyway, they have the technology to completely waste each other's spells and do nothing else on the top side. Gonna get ourselves Scrub start up. Going up here on the top side. Wait, has got himself onto that first clear. As soon as you get just a tiny bit of AP onto Diana, her clear speed is absolutely ridiculous. That Diana is going to absolutely melt towards that bot side. And once again, we've said this before, lanes are kind of left to do their own stunts. Junglers don't want any part of that just yet. They'll be on the board a little bit later, so it's kind of slow.
I love that the supports have just acknowledged that as well. Like, you saw Mark go up to help with the grubs, you saw Ming go over to help with the dragon. Like, they're the jungler's pets at this point. They're helping out with that one. Wei going to be found in the jungle by Heng, who is level 6 at this point. Smite comes through, and Wei hits level 6 as well, but Heng still happy to go for this one. FoFo dives into the action and finishes first blood.
We said the junglers need level 6. Wei gets that level 6 and immediately dies because Heng's there with the level 6 just beforehand. WE on the board first, and the Tristana, which has become very, very powerful once again, continues to be powerful over from Spring. Kind of leads towards that full push into the enemy jungle. That means the RNG are still kind of waiting to get to that point where they can fight back. They had the double tier trough, they've lost that first blood, they need to stabilize.
I don't know if Wei was ready for that level of all-in, but it's what you talked about just after the draft. Tristana can get to a fight so quickly, you jump over those walls, be a part of the action. Wei just caught, sort of unawares, walks into the sapling, the ult comes out from Heng.
And then it's just kind of lights out at that point. Had to flash maybe a little earlier as soon as that sapling slow comes down. What do you do beyond that point? See that Wayward gets out of dodge. Free for that one too. And now we, again, just what we said on the kind of the outro to that play, RNG need to find a way to quickly stabilize. Now they can do that once they get a little bit more wave clearing from Tangyuan and Huanfeng. They get a couple more levels. They do need to be careful not to give up too many more extra plays though.
The buffs come out from Mark and FoFo. Very happy to use that advantage to bully Tangyuan. It's a 10 CS lead right now in the mid lane, and FoFo working on getting some plates as well. Doesn't want to overstep. Knows Wei could be in the area. Ming, in the meantime, face checks and takes a healthy chunk for it. Culling even comes out down on the bottom side as LP just wants to keep control of the brush. They will be able to fight away for the control ward at least.
I'm finding it quite amusing that LP, because of the way that the tag turns up there, is just whelp. What's happening here? Whelp on the bot side.
Yeah. When he stood next to Dragon, he basically just looks like his baby at that point because he's a whelp. Yeah. Honestly, the fact that there's no space has always amused me. There are some interesting names. I'll not mention previous ones because often they're not broadcast appropriate, but that's a conversation for a different time. Right now, WE off to a solid start here. 3 grubs, 1,000 gold to their name and that first blood as well. RNG, it's the Drake that they've got to talk about, but a healthy advantage for FoFo, and on a pick that FoFo really has shined on in the past.
Yeah, and I think that it's a champion that's quite easy to pilot in this composition too. Shove and run.
No.
LP, the Whelp needs to be careful. No!
Whelp! Oh god, he's whelping now. Dived on, flash has come through, and Huanfeng finishes the job.
Oh gosh, just caught out. Just didn't know where the enemy members were on the other parts of the map. FoFo has push in mid lane, but LP is not safe to push down there in bot as well. It's gonna, of course, leave an opening in mid lane for FoFo to get an extra plate in that mid lane. They'll be able to reset and go towards those grubs towards that top side of the map too. But RNG getting some extra gold onto one of these tier carries can help them again get to that point where they can start fighting back, getting to that stabilization they need.
See if they can stabilize. So far, finding that pick will definitely, like you say, slow things down for WE, and also just building quite a sizable lead for Huanfeng in the bottom side. He's got his opportunity already. And one thing, they've already got that first Drake. One thing Lethality Virus is incredible at is setting up for Drakes. It's so hard to push into River when there's a Lethality Virus, and not to mention a Jace as well, blasting you with poke every time you go through those choke points.
It's not like W don't have tools to deal with that, but that's definitely going to be the area of the game which I'm most interested in now. It's not like another game where we'd have a Twisted Fate split pushing and that opens up your options. I mean, you're still looking at these objectives. You're going to be walking into River one way or another. Both these are team fight compositions. W will have to use the one-item spike that's just about to come up for LP, the 1 to 2 item spike when you get towards Collector now. You're building that on Lucian. And then into the Rapid Fire Cannon. You have the Maokai ult as well. That's how you can kind of force your way in. Brute force the fight before the second round of cooldowns come in from these poke champions in RNG.
FoFo moving into the mid lane here, but he's got to be cautious as Ming. Oh, must have been a pixel away on that hook. FoFo will be able to clear that ward. Hung in the area, and this is as Dragon spawns. That pick on FoFo would have been everything for RNG.
That would have been really nice. At least they're still around to land a couple of arrows here and there. They're not into River first, though. That's important, because RNG, when they get into River first, there they get to start poking very, very well. They haven't necessarily got that positioning right now. WE, they're pushing in mid lane. Tristan is moving down into River. That's an easy access. RNG, what do you do? It's another Hack Splash.
Well, Ming still hunting for it, but 2 hooks thrown, 2 hooks wide. With a TP from Tangyuan, they're still looking to contest this one. LP pushed away on the bottom side. Mark moving up towards the rest of his team. RNG, at minimum, have managed to reset that Drake and now muscling further into the river. Hung wants to contest it, but the poke keeps going wide. The hooks keep going wide. All out in the top side as well as Wayward. Bit of revenge here for the Cassante. ZDZ didn't like being pulled onto tower, and he doesn't like Wayward being in the alcove either. Wayward, alive for now. Can he get out of this one? I'm not so sure, but he actually pulled ZDZ towards it. Was that the play? Maybe it was. The stun against the wall, and ZDZ barely gets away. Now we go back to Drake and Hung, going for the ultimate to try and start the fight.
Steal.
It's taken by Tangyuan. Oh, and Zero kills on the bottom side.
I am so not understanding of what just happened there around that dragon. I guess just the smite shot blast combination works out there. WWE do have 6 grubs. They do have a Tristana though. So RNG, although they get themselves that neutral objective, are going to get smashed through in this mid lane. And because there are no kills going elsewhere, it is just going to be that dragon for turret trade. And you know what? I'm actually going to give the advantage here to Team WE. Opening up that mid lane so easily is very important for subsequent objective setups, even if they lost this one.
You remember earlier when I said Varus and Jace really good for controlling Drake?
Yeah.
That wasn't what I meant. That's not the kind of controlling Drake that I meant Jace is good at.
Instructions unclear.
Yeah, FoFo actually TPing up to the top side here, and will be rewarded with at least 2 plates here. Way's moving up. This is the answer now for RNG. Ming hooks on in there, spotted on the wall. FoFo has flash, might just have to use it here. Ming's hook will be flashed away from.
So what FoFo is trying to do is pull a bit of a fast one on RNG, use the 6 grubs to do huge tower damage and get a load of gold very quick. Just got that mid lane turret. If they'd had an extra wave on top lane, maybe things would have gone even better for them. This is what we kind of missed on the Dragon here because we were watching the 1v1 top side. We see the Maokai ult coming through. That's one of the big tools we said was available from Team WE. Doesn't matter if you don't find the fight and this goes down to a smite fight instead. Way, good fingers on the smite, just about to combo up with that mid lane.
I mean, I didn't even see the health go less than 1,000 there, so that shock blast must have landed almost the same frame as the smite was, I guess, ever so slightly shy. I didn't even see which jungler smited, honestly, but either way, close one. Tangyuan gets it for his team. So that's 2 Drakes. WE, though, like you say, already took that mid tower. Now they're grabbing themselves a Herald on the back of 6 Grubs. They are all about these topside objectives.
Yeah, and RNG, they managed to get themselves a push in the mid lane, but they don't get to hit the turret there either, nor have they really got themselves good push in bot lane just yet. Wayward will be able to get there to wave clear in time. So RNG, they're falling behind the pace of the map. They're not quite getting the value out of the objective poke that they want. They're not quite getting to turrets in time, and when they make a mistake, and FoFo gets to hit a turret, it is just a dead tower. 6 Grubs, bomb on tower, you don't get to defend against that. So I think that the Tristana pick from WE has worked out really well, and their movement across the map has also been moving really well.
It's been looking good so far from WE here, and I mean, a 3,000 gold lead at 15 minutes is nothing to be sniffed at. That is a hell of a start for this roster, and a roster that, honestly, I've got reasonably high expectations for. They showed some really good stuff, like you say, only just losing out to NIP during playoffs. They could have made it to top 6. Didn't quite manage to finish that off, replacing their bottom lane. And to be honest, it's not really been the bottom lane that's been making a difference so far in this game. Mark's roams have been nice. He's been helping out with Heng, but honestly, I'd say FoFo and Heng are really the stars so far.
I'd agree with that too, and this is a combination with the Nymeara and the Tristana, which has been the LPL mid-duo for the last, well, I mean, it kind of took a bit of a break in spring, but the entirety of last year, this would be the LPL mid-jungle, which I would give over to most teams. You know, we had teams like LNG do very well with it. We had some other teams too, of course, do very good things with it there. And RNG, now they are behind against this composition, which is very well practiced in the LPL, are lacking tools to really stop them keeping in pushing. Great Herald push coming in.
A Tristana bomb onto a tower with a Herald charge. This is going to be a tier 2 gone. The roots land, and Wayward managed to find a pull off the back of it as well. Tangyuan, gone. And now the tier 2 tower in the bottom side gone as well. ZDZ just trying to get a consolation on the top side.
It's a sour tang in the mouth there for RNG, sadly for themselves. Can't do anything against that push, and ZDZ, once again, not really doing enough damage to towers, doesn't have any grubs himself, not there in time to hit the turret. RNG have no cross-map response. Wayward goes back, RNG have nothing to answer with.
I feel like Skarno's kind of out-OPing K'Sante in this game, you know? Like, K'Sante's meant to be the one that never loses a trade, but he kind of just walks at him and presses buttons and watches K'Sante slowly get whittled away. It's somewhat satisfying to watch, you know, after some of the K'Santing we've seen over the last couple of years. I'm kind of okay watching K'Sante struggle in a lane.
For now. Well, I give it 2 patches, and then maybe I want to see Skarner go down to that point. I'm sorry, folks. I can already see it. I'm like, well, he can travel through walls, he builds 1,000,000 HP stats, and then never dies. There's still damage to do anyway. We've seen this story before. Anyway, we've seen ourselves a dragon come up onto the map too. RNG, they have themselves poke items. Will that be enough to finally get themselves the poke objective setup they need?
They've got 2 already. The Dragon Soul pretty much their win condition at this point. A TP coming through from ZDZ as well to get onto that front line. Hung in the pit. This is going to be a 50-50 smite between the 2 junglers. And it goes the way of Way. Can they get the fight though? Tidal Wave comes through. ZDZ sacrifice. And it goes Way onto the backside. But a triple pull from Wayward. Absolute carnage here, but a double kill for LP as they look for more as well. Huanfeng trying to escape, but he's the last man standing. And he will stand no more.
I take it back. I don't want to see 2 more patches of Skarner. That is absolutely disgusting. Wayward and Way both have teamfight impact, and it's their ultimates which ultimately determine the direction of the fight. 3-man ult coming in from Wayward seals the deal. WE don't get the objective, but they do get a whole slew of kills and more gold in pocket. This is what we saw in that big fight. We saw that Way gets himself the smite steal early on into this as ZDZ is buying time for that to happen, and then he finds himself the engage just after that point. He's basically just trying to make the most of cooldowns being down, thinks he can get himself a huge play, doesn't quite get the huge moonfall. Wayward does get huge impale on the other side though. 3 persons suppressed at the back end of that fight. Very hard to fight back against.
Yeah, that was beautiful from Wayward. I like the idea from Way. If he'd pulled just 1 or 2 more people, I think that maybe is a game-turning play. And honestly, when you look at the goal difference, they kind of are at the spot where they need a big turnaround play. It's not happened just yet, and it's not quite enough that time. They end up getting aced instead. They did get their third Drake, but in 3.5 minutes, can they really win a fight for a fourth? I'm not so sure.
I think they are very blessed that Baron has not spawned this game just yet. Yeah, it feels weird actually. We've got so many objective fights, and it's not actually been around Baron at all yet. It hasn't even spawned just yet. Another 20 seconds on the board until that one happens. WE pushing up now, putting saplings down, as Malachi tends to do. Very annoying trying to walk into the enemy jungle when you've lost control of that. And RNG are going to face even more problems now. Baron is spawning right now, and that area of the map for them is completely dark.
Yeah, infinite priority here for WE at this point. Cullen going to come on through to chunk out Ming. That's half his HP gone, and then FoFo uses that window to just demolish the mid lane tier 2.
Very organized play coming in from WE.
Yeah.
We said that this game was a benchmark game for both of these teams. I think that LP and Mark have done fine on the Lucian Nami. You know, LP got caught out once in that bot lane play. I think that was more of a team communication as to where enemy members were on the other side of the map, as opposed to LP's own individual mistake. And as soon as they've gotten ahead of this game, they have looked very, very disciplined. And RNG on the other side have not had any inspiration really to come back in this game. They're just kind of falling apart across the map as it stands.
We might be diving on the top side. ZDZ, gets hit by the bubble and pulled back into the action. The bomb is ticking on his head. Is it enough damage? Though the explosion's not quite there. ZDZ walks away with his life, but the tier 2 will not survive. WE, though, still grabbing an objective. Even if they don't get a kill, they can just turn to Baron.
Well, they could just even back off, but it's not like RNG can rush the Baron on the other side. They're going to go back, spend the gold they just blew up from a tower, and go back onto the map with their items in tow, get that full reset in. RNG are teleporting back onto Baron, but it's not like they can really do much with that. And the teleport from ZDC feels quite flat now after that point. That, to me, screams of a bit of desperation and a bit of panic, Joe.
Yeah, desperation, fair enough, but if you're going to make that call, you've got to commit to that call. You can't use your TP and then not go for the play. That's a bit unfortunate for RNG. You know, obviously there are some new pieces in this roster, ZDZ being one of those new pieces. So you can understand day number 1 for them being a little bit on different pages. But to be honest, I don't hate the idea of trying to rush the Baron there, because RNG, they're falling further and further behind. It's almost 10,000, the lead in favor of WE. I think maybe a desperation Baron would have been an opportunity to try and find something here.
Yeah, that's kind of what they're hoping for now. I think they're looking for Dragon Steels with a Varus Arrow, with a Shock Blast or something like that. I don't even know if it's going to be easy to get yourself in range for a smite. Baron has been started up now by WE and RNG. Yep. This might be one of their opportunities to turn the game, but they need to get in range to do something about it.
And the thing is, it's our main characters again, Tristana and Maokai, just two-manning the Baron. Cullen comes out from LP. It's a little bit of a whiff as Heng goes in to start the fight, and instantly Wei is just removed, forced to flash away. In the meantime, the bounces of ZDZ and Ming trying to protect the team. ZDZ doing his damnedest on the top side. Heng taken low, forced to flash, but the heal comes out from Mark in the end, and FoFo will finish the job. One pick is enough, and WE go back to Baron.
WE haven't needed to have the most explosive fights. All they've needed is a single mistake, and then the pressure they've built up the entire game starts flowing through the gaps. Gonna get themselves that Baron. I don't know whether RNG can get down towards the Dragon in time to secure themselves the Soul. I think the best they're gonna get is Scuffle after all of that as well. RNG have felt very toothless throughout this game.
Yeah, and, well, they have been training some dragons. They managed to train 3 dragons. I don't think they're going to train a 4th, though. I don't think they've got the soul for it, if you will. WE, get a move back into the jungle, straight towards this dragon.
I read the books of how to train your dragon as a kid, by the way.
Very different from the movie. Books.
There were books. They were beautiful books. They were great. Just throwing it out there.
Is the main Scottish character American in the books as well?
No, it's a very English book, actually, slash... I think it was an English book, either way. I really enjoyed it. And nice. There's less training of dragons in this one, really. It is, again... Well, there is the Dragon Trainer Tristana, I guess, potential. Sadly, don't see that one. It's how to kill your dragon here. And RNG, as you said, not going to be on the board for that one.
Yeah, unfortunately. RNG can't get themselves that Drake. Now Baron as well. This is looking good for WE. And again, day number 1 here is LP just going to absolutely rail ZDZ's health bar. ZDZ not having a fun time on this K'Sante. It's like he's not had the freedom to take over in the way that you often see K'Santes do. And I mean, just look at the goal differences across the scoreboard there. Every single lane at least 2,000 ahead, and then 1,000, 1,500 in the jungle and support roles respectively. This is a monumental start to the series for WE. This is how you give fans at home confidence in your first game.
And this is such an easy end to this game now on the table for WE. There is no flash or stopwatch for the side of Way. I think that's realistically what you would have hoped for as a miracle comeback opportunity from RNG. A huge Diana ultimate. It's not easy to pull off at this point. You still have the last of this Baron. You have a Maokai. All easy as you like. Bomb on the turret. 6 scrubs. It is gone.
It's so easy to take these objectives.
Teleport.
Now ZDZ has gone for a very, very deep teleport. Ming might just die before ZDZ can even get into the play. WE now corralled, but they can just turn onto ZDZ. He's just not that big of a threat just yet. And that's 4 people climbed on top of him. Wayward's barely even taken damage, and now he wants to go to Huanfeng. Looking for the ultimate, potentially. Huanfeng has flash, though. Wayward realizes that's not the angle, goes for Ming instead. But the rest of the team, not even looking. They're too busy taking in hims. Onto the Nexus they go. WE, 25 minutes of pure domination here. What a way to start your split. What a way to show off the new roster, the new bot lane coming in, and it's looking good so far.
Clean as you like. A lot of staple picks for the LPL in this first game from Team WE. Of course, they can't use those picks again because it's Fearless Trapped in game number 2. They will not be able to pick what they picked in the first game. But I mean, with what we saw on that table, Tristana Maokai, I'm glad to see it back in the LPL. It's been one of our best duos for mid-jungle, and seeing the Lucian Nami just played out to textbook is exactly what WE needed. Very organized, disciplined game from them.
Yeah, fantastic stuff coming out from WE. And like you say, the Tristana Maokai very much a crux of this strategy. I'm glad that we get to see this in game number 1 because it's something FoFo has been very good on in the past. And now we have to see FoFo do something else because we're in Fearless Trap. Let's see if WE can change things up. We're going to jump into a break and then we'll head to game number 2 and see if RNG can change things here because game number 1 was pretty one-sided.